Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Today's October 1, and it's the anniversary of the very first broadcast from CBN all the way back in 1961. So today we're celebrating, and today we're open for business, but the U.S. government, well, it's closed for business. A last-ditch effort to pass a short-term funding measure failed in the Senate last night.
And the blame game is underway, with both sides refusing to give ground. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are going on furlough. CBN's Brody Carter reports.
At the center of the standoff, deep cuts in Medicaid and safeguards on the president's power to cut future spending.
The bill, upon reconsideration, is not passed.
A last-minute push to stop the shutdown fell short in the Senate overnight. The House had approved a temporary funding patch, but it was tied to the president's spending bill that cut nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid over the next decade, a sticking point for Democrats.
This truly is a Democrat-owned, Chuck Schumer-owned shutdown. There's no negotiation. It's a shakedown when he asked for $1 trillion. For 4 weeks. It's absurd.
Republicans needed 8 Senate Democrats to cross over, but only 3 did.
I told you we have $17 trillion being invested, so the last person that wants it shut down is us.
It's the first shutdown since 2018 during President Trump's first term, which was the longest in 40 years. And while the president says he doesn't want to shut down, he suggests he can use it to make even more cuts Democrats oppose.
We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.
Democrat demands include funding for hiring health care subsidies, restoring planned Medicaid cuts, and legislation to limit the president's authority to make unilateral spending cuts.
Trump doesn't care about how this shutdown is going to hurt real, average Americans across the country. He doesn't care about the Republican health care crisis. He clearly thinks this is all a game.
Republican leaders say they will not enter into negotiations until Democrats agree to vote to reopen the government.
The negotiation happens when the government's open. So let's keep the government open, and then we will have the negotiation. I've said it. We're happy to sit down and talk about these other issues that they're interested in, but it should not have anything to do with whether or not, for a 7-week period, we keep the federal government open.
With the shutdown in effect, hundreds of thousands of federal workers face furloughs, while millions of active duty troops must work without pay. National parks and museums are closing. Passport and visa processing will slow, and food assistance programs face delays. Also, TSA agents and air traffic controllers will remain on the job despite no paycheck. This as lawmakers' salaries continue uninterrupted. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Well, senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright joins us now. So, Kelly, how long could this shutdown go on?
Gordon, if I had the answer to that one, I would pay CBN handsomely. No one has the answer, unfortunately, because we are locked into a game of politics and brinkmanship between both parties. They're in a bitter, contentious dispute right now. And as we just saw from our colleague Brody Carter, what's at stake here, how Democrats will not extend the funding or not vote for it until they can get that $1 trillion deal on Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. And Republicans are arguing, hey, the negotiations are not even necessary at this point. Right now, we just need to continue running the government, the CR, for the next 7 weeks, and then we can deal with things like the Affordable Health Care Act. The president, they want to get the appropriation bills to the president sometime in November. So now, Gordon, it's like a battle between right and left, Republican and Democrat, us and them. And caught in the middle of all of that is we, the people. We, the people, are wondering how long this is going to go on and how it will impact us in terms of our economy and in terms of our functionality, just working and living in this government shutdown.
Well, it seems to be different this time, and it seems to be a real high-stakes negotiation. What's your take? How is this one different than those in the past?
Well, Gordon, the last time it happened was at the end of 2018 into 2019. That was during President Trump's first term. That one lasted for 35 days. But what's different about this one, Gordon, is the fact that now the president has the tools of DOGE, if you will, Department of Government Efficiency. Remember when that was taking place back in January when he first came into office with his 47th term as the 47th president? So look, the problem is that the president holds the lever of power. He can implement furloughs. He can launch a furlough that would actually eliminate hundreds of thousands of jobs permanently. How does that square with Democrats? Well, Democrats could be really hurt by that in terms of their future chances of and any hope of having a midterm election. And of course, it also impacts us right now. Those essential workers who have to show up to work, Gordon, TSA workers, air traffic controllers, and the U.S. military. They're showing up to work under orders of the federal government, but cannot accept or receive any pay. That's very hard. I mean, I was coming here to work this morning, and I noticed that some people were not on the train, meaning federal workers, because of this government shutdown. If you're trying to catch a flight somewhere, TSA is showing up, but they're not getting paid. So what happens to those TSA workers who can't afford the public transportation to get to and from work? So all of this is having a dire impact on those federal workers who rely on those jobs and pay from the government, which the government cannot do right now because it is shut down.
Well, back in 2018, in that shutdown, the Trump administration made sure that the national parks were continuing, made sure that TSA was there, that there would be minimum impact on the average citizen, that it would only affect the federal employees and the federal government. On this one, it just doesn't seem like they've planned the same way. So, what's your advice to someone? I like taking a drive on Skyline Drive when the leaves change. And are the parks going to be open and just unstaffed? Is there, what should I do if I've got any kind of air travel planned? Is this going to lead to a sort of broader country shutdown, not just a government shutdown?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Gordon. Right now, it's too early to tell how the agencies of the Trump administration will respond to this government shutdown. Will they shut down the national parks? We don't know that yet. Look, I think the president wants to get something done. He wants to make a deal with Democrats and Republicans in going forward. The Republicans are advising the president to watch how the Democrats are dealing with this. They've got to get this continuing resolution done. And it also may impact, if it goes on too long, it may impact the gubernatorial races in New Jersey as well as Virginia. Where there's a lot of contention going on and competition going on between Winsome Earl-Sears and Abigail Spanberger, and of course up in New Jersey with Mikey Sherrill and Chitterley. So all of this can have an impact politically depending on how long it goes on. My advice to you, Gordon, before you take that trip to Skyline Drive is to map out your trip and also pray that the government has cooler heads prevailing and that they do the right thing for the American people and continue the resolution for the next 7 weeks.
All right, Kelly, great advice, and thanks so much for joining with us. Well, in other news, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has declared a new vision for America's military in an address to hundreds of high-ranking officers. Ephraim Graham has that story and more from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, the Secretary, Pete Hegseth, unveiled a new vision for the military, rolling out fresh directives he says will build a stronger and tougher force. It's all part of the administration's goal of reshaping the nation's armed forces.
Standards must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. If not, they're not standards. They're just suggestions. Suggestions that get our sons and daughters killed. When it comes to combat arms units, and there are many different stripes across our joint force, the era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now.
The Secretary emphasizing physical fitness. He said military members from the newest recruits to high-ranking officers will be required to meet height and weight standards, and all troops must meet a, quote, high male standard of fitness, which could eliminate some women from combat roles. President Donald Trump also addressed the gathering. He said the military should use some U.S. cities as training ground to address threats from within. 2 days after announcing the plan to end the war in Gaza, Washington, Jerusalem, and Doha are deliberating. As Chris Mitchell now reports, time is running out for Hamas to agree to a plan.
President Trump laid out the timeline for Hamas to accept or reject the plan.
We're going to do about 3 or 4 days. We'll see how it is. All of the Arab countries are signed up. The Muslim countries are all signed up. Israel's all signed up. We're just waiting for Hamas, and Hamas is either going to be doing it or not, and if it's not, it's going to be a very sad end.
He told reporters there's little room for more negotiations.
Not much. You know, with Hamas, we want very simple. We want the hostages back immediately, and we want some good behavior. And, you know, it's pretty simple. You don't get simpler. Think of it. We've signed every country in the Middle East. This was like an impossible thing. It's never been done before. This is more than Gaza. Gaza was big stuff, but Gaza is a piece of it.
In Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu met with members of his government.
In Washington, I agreed with President Trump on a plan for the release of all our hostages and the achievement of all the war goals we set. I will provide a more detailed report to both the members of the government and the members of the cabinet.
In Doha, the Qatari government is meeting with Hamas.
Regarding ending the war and bringing aid in, of course, the first step now is reaching consensus on this plan with all parties. The Israeli side had initially expressed approval on the plan based on what had been agreed upon. But now, as we said, we are in the stage of consultations with the negotiating delegation of Hamas.
Qatar said on Tuesday it will also hold mediation talks with Hamas and Turkey over the peace plan. While Israelis have applauded the plan, expectations are low, and the next couple of days will be critical. Meanwhile, Israel is preparing to shut down for Yom Kippur, the most solemn day of the year for Jewish people. Many will fast for 25 hours and seek to reconcile with God and each other. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And the countdown begins. Gordon?
Well, I don't anticipate Hamas accepting the deal because it requires them to lay down their arms. They've already said they can't do that, that's a non-starter on their part. And so it looks like this war is going to grind on. Let's pause in Yom Kippur. Let's join with the Jewish people and be reconciled to God, and let's ask him, can you please bring peace to Jerusalem? Can you bring peace to the Middle East?